Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining and welcome to the Qatar Business and Finance Sector Insight session. My name is Jacques Hardan. I am the Director of Technology at AFG College. We are starting our event shortly. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can type your questions and the presenters will be answering during the event or at the end of it. Thanks again for attending. I will hand over now to my colleague Rina Al-Kasti.
Thank you, Jad. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for participating and joining us today. My name is Rina Al-Kasti. I'm the Careers and Internship Manager at AFG College with the University of Aberdeen. I would like to welcome our guests, our participants and attendees, both from either campuses, Qatar or Aberdeen or anywhere in Doha, who are joining today. I would like just to note to students who are attending this session as part of the Employability Boost Award to make sure to send us your name and email address in the question chat box to record your attendance. Otherwise, if you're joining this session separately, you're more than welcome, and you're welcome to join in the discussion with sharing your questions, your comments in the questions and answers tab. Today, we are welcoming with us 3 guest speakers who will share their insights on their sector and will also give us tips on the skills required for our students to have and to develop in order to be and become more employable in these sectors. Each speaker will be sharing their insights for 15 minutes, followed by a questions and answers session. With no further ado, I would like to introduce our 3 guest speakers, Mr. Rami Quda. He has 20 years of experience at Deloitte Qatar, currently a partner at Deloitte Doha. Also, Mr. Akbar Khan, Head of Asset Management at Rayan Investments in Doha, and Mr. Ibrahim Fahmi, who is actually an alumni of University of Aberdeen, MSc in Subsea Engineering, and has 20 years of experience in offshore and marine industry. With no further ado, I would like to start with Mr. Rami Quda, who will be sharing his insights.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Is my voice clear before I start? Can someone confirm?
Yes, everything is clear. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to thank you all for attending and thank the university for arranging this, I think, exciting and excellent event. It's excellent and very good for students in general to know and have some guidance on their futures. Probably back in the days, it wasn't always available, and this is something you should be proud of about your university. Now, a little bit, since the main aim of this our discussion is to talk about insights about our sectors and what is it required for students in general to work at a company like Deloitte, for example, or the sector itself, where it includes all professional services, such as audit, tax, financial advisory, consulting, and risk advisory. This is to sum up the professional service market. And like all other sectors, we were affected with what happened recently in the last few months. So if you look at the slide here, if you look at the left side now, the whole world is changed. And I think we all believe that the change happened from our houses, our families, all the way to all sectors and businesses. And whoever will succeed in this is someone who is able to innovate and adapt and change. So at the beginning, I know many of the companies we work with and sectors paused for 2-3 months, did nothing, hoping that in 2-3 months this will be over and then we can move forward. Unfortunately, it was too late for them when they wanted to change and start adapting to what happened. Now, if you look down in the second picture, you will see that some of the biggest sectors that are affected are the oil and gas in general, and we had this hydrocarbon and green globe that everyone was raising. I think this accelerated it. So we could see, and even some Some people talked about how the globe became cleaner, air was pure, and so on. But that itself helped our third photo here on the side that shows our IT sector in general, technology, future, innovation, you name it. All that changed, and all that is the future. Now, if you move to the next slide, please. I made a small comparison between the past, present, and the future. And if you look at the businesses in general, we're all using, printouts, papers, pens, etc. And of course, we use our laptops and machines, but we feel more comfortable to print out things. Probably the new generation is more into technology, which is good. That will help you more. And now the present, the accelerated present, is everything is online. The second line, you can see how people used to be in offices. You sit beside your colleague, you meet, you have meetings together, you discuss, and now everyone is working from home or remotely. And like we're doing now, we're using Teams to discuss all this versus having a big hall where we come there and talk face to face and really interact with each other. And the future, we don't know. It could be Star Wars, it could be something from the moon. It is technology. So we're yet all to create the future, all of us together. Now, if you stay a little bit on the slide, please. Now, one thing I would like to emphasize on is that me personally, I'll give you some of my own experience. Working from home for several months in a row, it made me focus more because I have less interruptions in my day-to-day work, less people coming into my office. However, maybe I spent more time doing some work because being face-to-face will help you finalize few things faster versus now it takes more time being on doing things online, discussing over Teams or Skype and so on. So this is one big effect. However, you get to control your daily schedule and you spend more time with your family. That's a big difference we face in our business, in our sectors, professional services, because we provide services to all other sectors. Our time is not in our hand. So many times people have to stay overnight, you have to spend weekends working, etc. But now at least you have breaks where you can see your family versus before we could not. Now, if you move to the next slide, please. One thing that people are asking, what happened to employment? What is happening now? Before, there is one period of the year where we start having internships or trainings and we start interviewing staff and we take them on board for training or internship, and then we employ whoever was successful. Now all companies are very careful in hiring, and including Deloitte. So people don't hire based on future plans anymore. People have to make sure they have secured work and business before they hire. So what does that mean? It means there is more challenges for you guys, for all the students, to be well equipped, to really make sure you are ready, to make sure you differentiate yourself, because the market is full. There are many graduates everywhere, but there are needs. This is the good thing. So needs will always be there. So you need to be different. And I'm not talking only about high grades. High grades is very important. High grades, it will help you to get an interview, but then you need to have the skill, the soft skills, the personality, the insights to really do your own research and reading on everything from finance to business to politics to whatsoever. You need to have or to know what's going on around you. All that will help you be different, and all that will make you employable and will help you really convince a company to really take you on board. One other thing I always tell graduates, you have to really think of your next step after your BA degree, for example. It's not enough anymore. You need to have a certificate, a professional certificate, you name it, depending on what sector you want to work in. Different certificates will serve different sectors, starting from the CAPA, ACCA, CFA, CMA, all of it, you name it. So you need to have plans on what to do, or you can do your masters and so on. Having many training courses will help a lot, as I said, and doing those certificates at an early stage is very important and to help students be ready from the beginning. And I will give you one small number just for you to know. A few years back, I remember 3-4 years back, on our Middle East website of Deloitte, we had 14,500 requests for employment, CVs that were submitted, and we managed to hire around less than 500 of those. Just imagine the number. Why is that? Because competition is there, and we took the best, the elite, and you can be one of those. You have a great university, great courses, great reputation, and you have the chance and the opportunity. So you just need to work on yourself.
Well, sorry, it looks that Rami got disconnected. We'll wait for him. Hopefully, in a few seconds, he'll be able to join again.
You need to unmute, please.
Rami, we're sorry, we cannot hear you.
Hello?
Yes, Rami, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, if you go to the last slide. Now, on the last slide, I would like to leave you with the 3 skills that I feel are very important nowadays with all the changes we saw. First thing, innovation, and I mean here not only innovation for the companies, because companies must be innovative to survive and move forward, but you as students need to be innovative in your skills, innovative in your mindset. You need to be smart in your selection and your choices. Second skill, to have an analytical mind. So you need to know how to analyze data, how to link the dots together. That is very important and will help you penetrate the market successfully. And then the last thing, I would urge you to be on top of technology. I know the new generations, everyone now knows technology very well, but it's not about Facebook, Instagram, etc., etc. You need to know how to use technology properly for your businesses. So those 3 skills, I think, with your proper education and training, will help you be successful and succeed. And if I link that to just briefly to companies, we have many sectors that got harmed from the COVID-19 and what happened because they were not ready. And companies who were ready to adapt and had already plans but got accelerated, for example, those were more successful in managing the crisis, let's say, and really surviving until things hopefully are back to normal. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions, whether now or after my co-presenters are done. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rami. This is Abrar Hussain. I'm a professional chartered accountant as well and a CPA. And I am delighted to inform the students as well as for the information of our guest speakers as well, that university is working very closely with ACCA for accreditation, and we hope to get a full accreditation very soon from ACCA. And our students are being prepared basically to sit for professional certifications as well. That's our, and thank you very much for especially highlighting the skill set which is required for future generation and for employability. It's extremely important, and our focus is also on basically harnessing the students with such skills so that they can go, and when they go into such a challenging job market now, they should have the right skills. So if any of the participants have any questions, please feel free to write, and then we'll basically channel it through to Mr. Rami. So we don't have any questions as yet for Mr. Rami, but in case if there are any, we'll note it down, and then towards the end we can direct it to Mr. Rami. Thank you so much, Mr. Rami. Our next speaker is Mr. Akbar Khan. Akbar Khan has been in Qatar for over a decade. He's been working with Mr. Rayan Investment Company, which is a subsidiary of Mr. Rayan, one of the major Islamic banks. And he's the head of asset management at Al Rayan Investment in Doha since 2009. Prior to that, he was director at Deutsche Bank in London, where he spent more than 11 years, and in European and emerging markets, equities and trading research and proprietary investment roles. And he's a CFA as well. So please welcome Mr. Akbar Khan, and over to you, Mr. Khan.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for listening. Great comments that we just heard from Rami. So that's obviously very good. I just wanted to, before I talk a little bit about some of the things which I think are interesting, and I'm afraid that you guys are going to have overlap, or maybe it's a good thing that all three of us are going to tell you things which are a little bit similar to each other. But before I get there, I thought maybe I'll tell you a little bit about what we do, and what does asset management mean very briefly in terms of what we do and what our company does, and how that leads to the skill sets that we have. So if I can just ask whoever's got the slides to go to the next slide, please. Or do I control it, or does somebody else control it? Okay, perfect. I work for Al Rayan Investment. We do two things. One is advisory, so corporate finance or investment banking, where my colleagues advise the CEOs, the CFOs, the boards of companies on buying other companies, on selling businesses, mergers and acquisitions, on raising capital, whether that's through the stock market, through the bond market, sukuk market. So basically helping companies with their banking needs. The other business that we do in Al Rayan Investment, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Masraf Al Rayan, is asset management. So I look after that business. What do we do? We essentially, our client base is what we would say predominantly institutional investors. By that, what I mean is we differentiate between individuals and institutions. Individuals are you and me. So we do have clients like you and me. And what we would call family offices, or essentially where people group their money together as a family, which is obviously pretty common in Qatar and the Gulf. But then also institutions, so companies, whether that's companies, and many of our clients are companies that are listed on the Qatar Stock Exchange. We have insurance companies, we have pension funds, we have sovereign wealth funds. We have a number of different types of endowments, etc. These people have large balance sheets, i.e. they have lots of cash and other assets on their balance sheet, and they want to increase the return on those assets. They want to increase the return on their cash. They're not content with earning 0.5% or 1% in the bank. They want to do something else. So they come to us and we discuss based on what their goals are, investment goals are, risk appetite is, investment horizon, etc., any return targets they may have. We then discuss and figure out what we think is the right places for them to invest. So that's essentially what we do in asset management. We take other people's money and we invest it for them. And that's asset management globally. That's what asset management means. So within Rayan Investment, the areas that we focus on are on the equity side, or as far as stock markets are concerned, we invest in all of the markets of the Gulf. We still invest in all of the markets of the Gulf, despite what's been happening in the last few years, and there are no restrictions because it's not our money, it's our clients' money, and we invest where they want us to invest. And we invest in sukuk globally. So sukuk are Sharia compliant bonds, and so we do that globally. And we also have something called a money market fund, which is basically for people who want like a bank account, but slightly enhanced returns. So it's an enhanced return cash, if you like. So those are the three main areas that we focus on. If we go to the next slide, please. So what is that? That is well, that's a jigsaw puzzle piece. And why is it there? Because really what we do for a living, our commodity, the commodity that we deal in is that blue thing over there. It's not jigsaws. That blue thing represents information. Our business relies on us having information and then acting on that information. So I often tell people, when people are asking about what we do for a living, is myself and my team, and I'm very fortunate to have a fantastic team. I've been lucky enough to have been able to hire all of them over the last decade, and very lucky that they're all professionals with great experience. We are essentially a information gathering team who also makes investment decisions. Why do I say that? Because try making an investment decision, frankly, try making any decision without any information. If you don't have any information, how do you know whether you want to turn left or right? How do you know whether you want to buy or sell? How do you know whether you want to walk away? You need information. And in the markets that we deal in, which is Qatar and the Gulf, there isn't a huge amount of information out there. And you will know this when you start, not when you start, but I'm guessing you've already been given projects and you have to do work. You try doing a project on a company in the US or in Japan or in Europe, and then you try doing something on a company in Qatar. There's a very different amount of information that's out there, whether that's information about the country, macro information, or information about the company, or information about sectors, etc. There is a huge dearth of information. We are in a desert, both in physically and from an information point of view. So our primary job, if you go to the next slide, is to take that our blue piece here. Go to the next slide, please. We're not going to the next slide. Okay, there we go. So this is what we deal with every day. We deal with jigsaw puzzles. Our job is to make sense of of information that's around us, which is unstructured, which is no one is there to organize it for us. The information is what we see. It's in the newspapers. It's we talk to companies, we talk to people. You heard a little bit earlier about the importance of networking, and you'll hear it again probably from the next speaker as well. We use our networks. We try and take, if you think of each of those pieces in that picture as pieces of information, our job is to try and get as many together as we can. We don't actually know what picture we're making, unlike a jigsaw puzzle that you buy. You look at the cover and you say, hey, I'm making a jigsaw puzzle of a house. We actually don't know what we're making, because we have to take all these bits of information, which some are relevant, some are not relevant, and try and piece them together to make a picture as to what's happening for a company or for the economy as a whole, and then to try and understand themes and try and understand trends that are happening, whether they are positive, whether they are negative. You know, some of this is very simple. So when we're looking at Qatar, the theme, which is obvious, is the World Cup. In 2 years and a little less than 1 month, it'll start. So that's a theme, and that's you can have investments along that theme. Now that's an obvious theme, that the World Cup is happening. The question is, what should we buy in anticipation of the World Cup? How do we make money from this event as investors, not as investors in the stock market, etc. There are other themes out there, which is like, for example, Qatar will be expanding its gas production capacity, which you will hear more about from the next speaker. That's happening over the course of this decade. So we know that's a public fact. What do we do with that? These are just two examples, which are very big, easy, obvious events that are happening, but there are many, many, many more subtle ones. How do you take advantage of COVID? How do you avoid the negative effects of COVID on the economy, on companies? Which companies are benefiting? Which companies are not benefiting? Who's getting hurt? All of these, we're piecing together lots and lots and lots of different bits of information. So we have a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. Another way of looking at it, if we go to the next slide, please. Another way of looking at it is, not only are we piecing together jigsaw puzzles, we're piecing together these things which you, if any of you have kids, or if you remember from when you were younger, you join the dots and you make a picture. Now, the thing is that there are many more dots in this picture than what is there. And if you think of each dot as a piece of information, the more dots you have, the more information you have, the clearer the picture. So when you look at this thing on the screen, you think, this could be an ice cream cone. It could be maybe a person with some funny hair. I don't know what it is. So that's kind of the point I'm making, is you have lots of information, or you have certain bits of information, you don't really know what the picture it's building because you don't have all the information. If you go to the next slide, please. So this is another person who also got information. It's around the same theme. Now they got information slightly differently, and they're looking at it thinking this looks like maybe a dog with a lot of hair, and we were thinking it was maybe an ice cream or a person with a lot of hair. Now maybe this is a dog and that's a nose, and really don't know what's going on in this picture. So two sets of people have slightly differing information, come to completely different conclusions. If we go to the next slide, please. That is a picture. So actually what this is, it's a flower. The thing on the top is the flower and the bottom part is the stem, and it's a flower. So if you have all the information, then it's obvious as to what's going on. We never have all the information, and not only that, the information that we get gets stale very quickly. So if a company, in January there was no such thing as COVID. So anything that you knew about the world in January or even February is pointless in March because now COVID has happened. When oil is $100, that's interesting. When oil goes to $50, everything that you knew about the world at $100 stops being useful. So you need more of these pieces of information. You need more analysis and understanding of trends and themes. And not only are we doing this, trying to take themes and trends and piece them together, we're doing this with a stopwatch, because everyone else who's also investing in the markets is trying to do exactly the same thing at exactly the same time to take advantage of opportunities. Whoever spots a trend first, i.e. is able to say buy something first or sell something first before other people, that means, so let's say, I'll give you a simple example. Almira, we all know who Almira is. Almira benefited very significantly from COVID. Why? Because we all stayed at home and we bought a lot more food from Almira. We stopped going to hotels, so we bought a lot more food from Almira. We stopped traveling and we stopped going on some holidays, so we bought a lot more food from Almira. Because we were working from home, and many people still are, we buy a lot more food from Almira and the supermarkets in Qatar in general, but we can't buy those. So as an example, Almira benefited very significantly. And the Almira share price went up about 25–30% as a result of COVID happening. But whoever understood this trend first, bought first, and took advantage of the 25–30% depreciation in the share price. If you figured it out last, by the time you got to Almira, it had already gone up 25–30%. So it's no point getting the puzzle right if you're the last person to get it right. So not only are we trying to solve puzzles, we're solving them with a stopwatch. The race is against everybody else. If you go to the next slide, please. So this is Sudoku. I don't know how many of you know what Sudoku is. If you don't, I would Google it. It's a very good way of expanding your brain power. The reason I've shown three different things, I showed a jigsaw puzzle, I showed dots, I showed Sudoku, is we're actually solving multiple puzzles simultaneously, all against the clock. And we're effectively taking all the information that we get to try and piece together what the picture is. And as you can see, whoever actually completes this successfully, I'm going to buy them lunch, like a real life physical lunch. I will take you out for lunch. So if you can, whoever completes this successfully, send it to Rinash, she'll send it to me, and I'm buying you lunch. So good luck. It's hard. So if you can figure it out, that's good. So we come to the next and last slide. So the question is, if all we're doing is, sorry, go back up a bit, please. If all we're doing is basically solving puzzles, then essentially it sounds like child's play. Or is it really child's play? It probably isn't. Or is success in our industry really about, the men and women who have the most qualifications, the most degrees? Do they rise to the top fastest? So if you have a PhD, does that guarantee your success? No, it doesn't either. So neither is it child's play, and neither is it that your triple PhD will help you become CEO in a month's time. What it is a lot of boring things, and this is where the repetition comes. And if you can press once more, please. On the slide, if you can just press once more. Yeah. So these are the there are a number of different areas, but these are some of the ones that I would focus on in our job, and I think in a lot of jobs, you need to have as much intellect. You need to have intellectual curiosity, lots and lots of it. What does that mean? You need to be doing what you used to do, what we all used to do when we were 3 and 4 and 5 years old, is always asking why, always trying to research why, always trying to find out why. You just heard earlier about one way of differentiation is to know about different aspects, know about politics, know about different subjects. From a actual work point of view, the more you keep asking questions, and I don't mean just keep asking other people, ask yourself the question. We have all the tools to answer them. It's called the internet, but also you have a network and you have other people that you know. Ask questions and figure out what's going on. I'll give you an example. When I came to Qatar in 2009, the LNG, Qatar had just become, or in the process of becoming, an LNG superpower globally. And so one of the things that I was thinking about and what I wanted to find out about is how, people kept saying the reason why Qatar is in such a good position is because the gas contracts, when they're selling their LNG to other people, they're on 25-year contracts. And these contracts are unbreakable. So it's basically guaranteed income for 25 years. And no country has guaranteed income for 25 years. And everyone I met kept saying this. So I thought, this sounds too good to be true. So let me try and figure out if this is true. And I spent, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, a year asking people. And obviously you ask somebody in Qatar Petroleum and they were not going to say, oh, let me send you the contract so you can read it. It's highly confidential. But I asked people that I met in Exxon. I asked people, I had a neighbor who worked in Total. I had somebody who I knew worked in the oil industry in another country, etc., etc. And I eventually came to the conclusion that, yes, because of a number of reasons, number of ways, these gas contracts were guaranteed for 25 years and they just couldn't be broken. But that was an example of me wanting to understand that if I am going to be investing in Qatar and the growth of Qatar, how secure is that growth? How secure is the income from gas? And to understand that, I needed to figure this out. So this also leads to the next point, which is using logic and problem solving. Anything you do, whatever career you do, and all these 5 or 6 points or 7 points that are here, they're not about asset management. This is about your professional life, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a policeman, whether you want to work in the investment industry, whether you want to become a gardener, it doesn't really matter. You need to think about logic and problem solving. And Sudoku, which is what is on the previous slide, is a very good way of practicing your logic skills. You need to have a passion for what you do because you need to work pretty hard to differentiate yourself from everybody else who's trying to do the same thing. And one way is to do a job which you hate and work hard, which isn't really a very successful formula for the future. Another option is to love it or really be interested by it. And if you have a passion for it, it'll not feel like hard work. It'll just feel like this is what I enjoy doing. Teamwork is critical, and you can practice that because you already do, because you get assignments, you work in team. One of the reasons why you do get assignments and you work in teams is because you're being given practice as to how to work in a team, and B, when you do come to a job interview and somebody says to you, have you worked in a team before? You'll say, yes, when I was at AFG, this is what we did. So teamwork is absolutely critical. Effective communication. It's no point being the smartest person in the room and not know how to communicate with people, not being able to communicate your ideas, not being able to explain what you think, not being able to understand not having people understand what you're saying. Because again, the people who, if you have very good communication but not such good other skills, you will do better than other people who have worse communication but better intellect. And I've seen this time and time again, the best communicators and the people with the most confident communication outperform relative to where they should be. I mentioned hard work and professionalism. Professionalism it's a bit like saying service quality. It's a bit like saying when you're working when you're working in any company you're working in, imagine that you're working at the Four Seasons. Imagine you're working at the W Hotel. Imagine you're working at St. Regis. You need to give the customer excellent service. You need to give your colleagues excellent service. You need to be professional. You need to be mature. You need to focus on how to get ahead and how to be really good at what you do, so that people look at you and say, wow, he or she really professional, just focused and ticks a lot of the boxes and is able to deliver. And the last point, if you can click on the next one, please. is you need to have some fun. You need to be fun. In a professional environment, you spend more time there than you spend at home, than you spend with probably anyone else in your life. If you're a really boring person to hang around with, nobody wants to have you in their team. Nobody wants to spend 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day with somebody who's really boring. So when we're recruiting people, I'm not saying you need to be a comedian, but if somebody is just really introverted and has no ability to interact with the outside world, they may be as smart as possible, but that doesn't help in a professional environment. So have some fun. Be somebody who people are happy to be around. People would like you to be their colleague. So this list could be a lot longer, but I think these are some of probably the most important points, which are ones worth thinking about. So if we go to the next slide, which is basically me saying thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, I guess you could put them on chat now, or can deal with them later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akbar Khan. We have a few questions which have come in for Mr. Rami Khuda as well as Mr. Akbar Khan. We'll take them towards the end. I'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Ibrahim Fehmi, who is a marine engineering consultant. He's an alumni of University of Aberdeen, and with masters in subsea engineering, which is relating to offshore oil and gas operations, a very highly specialized and skilled job. And he's an active member of Society of Petroleum Engineers and an award winner as well. So welcome, Mr. Ibrahim Fehmi, and over to you, Mr. Ibrahim Fehmi.
Thank you, Mr. Abrar, and all our speakers. Welcome, everyone. Today, I will focus on insight of offshore oil and gas sector. I will start globally, then I will move to Qatar insight, and then at the end I will talk about the skills required to increase students' employability in the market. Our agenda today, global business and the market challenges. Actually, we have very much challenges we have in 2020 after the pandemic of COVID-19 at the first quarter, and everyone have seen the impact on the global economy being highlighted in the results of the second and third quarters of most of business companies. Second, after that, I'll talk about the roadmap of recovery plans to overcoming the challenges, and we'll move to offshore market outlook, Qatar maritime investment in LNG carriers, and skills required. Could we move to next slide, please? In that slide, it's not the first time we have downturn in oil and gas market. Our industry suffered many times, especially in the last 12 years. We have 3 downturn. The most severe one was in 2008 when the oil price affected by the financial crisis in US, which moved to Europe later on, and the oil price down from 147 US dollars per barrel to 35 US dollar in only a few weeks. It was, by the way, a few months before the US presidential election in 2008. But as our industry is very flexible and can move up quickly, after that, in 2009 till 2014, we made a very good progress in both oil and gas. Many offshore and onshore projects being executed in the whole globe, and resulted in increasing the overall production capacity from 87 million barrels per day to almost 100 million barrels per day. I think this was one of the problems came later in 2015 when we have another downturn which moves the oil price down from sustainable to 120 over more than 3 years in 2011, 12, 13, and most of 14, down again to around $40 in sudden point. At that time, the global economy started to suffer after many years of good figures of some good figures of the GDP in China and US, but you can say the global consumption is slightly higher than the whole production. From here, the point came to most of oil and gas company to make some agreements. Started with OPEC plus Russia. Made a good agreement in 2016 in order to reduce the overall production in order to make some stability in the oil price. Some good effect and absorb the excessive amount of production in the market. Some reduction in the daily production happened in 2016 and 17 by around 2.5 million barrels a day, but it was not enough. Yes, it moves the oil price slightly up to the 50s and touches the 60 US dollar, but it was not sustainable because there is no good growth in the whole global economy at that time, and some shrinkage started to be shown in the GDP in some developing countries. After that, in 2018, we have slight downturn, and the oil price, some push, I can say some push from the exporters by sudden reduction in the production, push the oil price to 80 plus for very few weeks. But as we know that it's not sustainable, and the total oil and gas price came down again. But the change here, the gas price not being affected severely, same like before. Before, in the last decades, the gas price is following the oil up and downs by a similar formula or percentage. If the oil price came down 30-40%, you can see the agreements of gas is coming down by a similar percentage. But now, after some changes towards the climate change, you can say the gas started to be in much better situation. Yes, it comes down, but not the same percentage of the negative oil price. Until we reached the 2020 and the pandemic happened, which affected the overall global economy and the global consumptions of total energy everywhere. And we reached on 20th of April a very strange situation where the oil price came down to negative numbers for a few days because of the storage capacity everywhere in the world reached the maximum. And it was a very complicated point for the production companies to either to stop some productions of the field, which is making some technical problems, or starting to store in some tankers in the oceans. But even the points where you need to transfer the oil from the oceans or tankers to some storage areas in US, for example, they didn't find any possibility for that. But some corrections happened after that, after some good agreement between OPEC plus Russia. Actually, they made some disagreement at end of March, but and starting some war of prices and taking the consumption market, but they found that if they will fight each other more than that, the whole market will be destroyed. That's why at end of April they found that they need to negotiate further and find a better agreement in order to make the market in better situation. Could we move to the next slide, please? Energy market challenges. What happened also in the end of first quarter in 2020, we have a major drop of 20% of global consumption. My friend Fatih Birol, who is the head of IEA in Paris, is the most important organization in collecting information of the global energy. When we discussed in April, he says that maybe it will be 10 to 15% reduction in global consumption. I said it will be more than 20, maybe 25, because you have several factors happen. You have shrinkage in GDP. In US, for example, at that time, the numbers not being presented, but it presented in June. But as expected, the GDP in US shrinkage by 33%, in UK by 20%. The cash flow and supply chain complications because of pandemic and the closing the borders everywhere. A major drop in building and construction activities, a major drop in global trade, the travel industry under severe pain. You know, the oil market is linked with the supply chain and the refineries, and after that the fuel to transportation means. It's showing after that some figures of 20 million jobs lost in US. And in UK, over 750,000 jobs lost. Unemployment rate also increased from in the US from 4.4 till 14.7 in US, which is affecting Trump presidential race now. The global economy suffered really in the last two quarters. We found in 20th of April, Dow Jones lowest point since December 2016, below 20,000 points. Worst week loss ever, 4,000 points. Energy companies until today suffering in the stock market and share market plunge. It was the worst since 2008. The major oil drop is still now is much better. We are 30 plus, but it's not sustainable as well. Because of all these factors, the offshore oil and gas industry everywhere are suffering in the cash flow, are suffering in continuity of the projects. Now is most of projects under freezing situation until we'll see what will happen. Could we move to the next slide, please? We should have roadmap of recovery. No, the previous one, please. Yeah, we should have roadmap of recovery because we learned a lot from other downturns happened, especially in 2008. Yes, it was financial, not economical problem, but we have some data we can and some plans we can repeat again. The first one is implementing lessons learned from the downturns in 2008, 9, and 15 of restructuring the business, some transformations for current business and back to normal business. Some expansions happened which really in wrong direction in some countries and in some type of business. I can give examples. The travel business and the travel industry expanded a lot, more than required. You can imagine the deals of new planes in the Gulf in the last 10 years, which based on sustainable travel industry in the next 20 years, which is not happening now. So we need to make some business restructuring and be realistic. Be realistic when planning to expansion of our business. Any type of business, we should be realistic and study all economical factors around us. We should make some type of diversification of our business. In the energy, when I am talking, we need to go into cleaner energy. By the way, the gas, it was considered under the Paris Agreement 5 years ago. Is in between. We can say it's hydrocarbon, yes, but it's cleaner than oil, but it's not the type of energy we need in the future after 40 or 50 years. But now the gas is considered clean energy because we cannot make our energy transformation very fast in wind and solar energy. It will take decades. So the gas will take the transformation 30 years from today until 2050. And we have some expectations within 10 or 15 years, the gas will be the first source of energy in all over the world. This will give too much hope to some emerging markets and producers like Qatar to invest more and prove the good plans of expansion of North field to increase the production capability. Especially the other competitors in Mediterranean Sea, the new fields found there is still under some geopolitics issues, which will take some years. So now you can develop North field without fear of of new sources will come to the market within 5 years. Also, the investment in merging and acquisition. Now, in most of industries, you can see some plans to merge and acquisition, some similar and some competitors together in 1 or 2 firms instead of 4 or 5. And also, we have seen some good opportunities for investment in that. Some companies found in 2009 good opportunities to grow during that time by doing good merging, not a relative merging, but we are talking about the right merging and good restructuring of both together and utilizing more technology. So now the technology is playing the most important role in the business. Without technology, we cannot meet today. So the pandemic show some importance of accelerating the need to accelerate the utilization of technology. Not only utilization, but innovation. You need to design your technology. If you'll stay just a user of technology, it will be a big problem in the future. So you need the students to learn more in good utilization and starting to design. So to focus on design and some innovation. So could we go to the next slide, please?
Yes, sure. Ibrahim, we need to leave some time for the questions.
In 3 minutes.
The last slide, you 1 more minute, 2 more minutes.
Offshore energy market during transition, I said about our consumption, which is now 85 oil, 85 million barrel per day. The gas production and development will continue to grow. Gas is a black horse, as I said, and will increase our dependence on it. Geopolitics is still. IOCs now, like British Petroleum, is moving to IEC, international energy companies instead of international oil. So and we'll focus more on renewable energy. And we have some a good outlook for offshore energy integration. the oil and gas plus renewable from wind, floating wind especially, plus hydrogen, plus carbon capture storage will deliver in UK more than 30% of the UK net zero target in 2050 of zero emission. Could we go to next slide, please? Qatar maritime investment in LNG carriers. This slide for students, business students. In Qatar, there is huge investment in shipbuilding of 100 LNG carriers in South Korea. The deal valued around 70 billion Qatari riyal signed by QB in the last few months, securing 60% of the global LNG shipbuilding capacity all over the world until 2027 to support the plan of increasing LNG exports from 77 million tons to 126 million tons from North Field development. This very good area where the business students should prepare themselves to manage those huge projects of investment. Talk about 20 billion US dollars. Some students can learn more in marine and maritime business and can go to manage and working in that huge projects, especially also in the North Field development where huge investment is there in offshore business. Could we go to the last slide, please? The skills required, from my experience, I can say effective communication and networking. Effective communication, that means the 4 ways. You need to be very good in listening and speaking and reading and writing, in all of them. You need to be very good in complex problem solving, strategic thinking, and data analysis. The data analysis is the most important skill is currently presented in most of markets, most of companies. Strategic thinking and data analysis. Leadership, you need to prepare yourself for leadership skills and teamworking, managing multicultural people. Technology use, design, innovation, making opportunities. You need to make your opportunities by yourself and marketing yourself as well. The knowledge diversification is a very important point. I need you to be to have knowledge in many aspects, many subjects, not only the subjects you are studying. The time management is very important. Social responsibilities to serve your community, resilience and flexible. You need to be flexible. All of us now talking, we are flexible to change and adapting. The changes happened in the last few months. Lessons learned and the strategic thinking. You need to be to learn from your mistakes and to plan your future. You need to also to have some skills in crisis management. It's very important. And last not least, you need to have the good behavior, the good principles, the good ethics, and the good manner. They are the 4 pillars for any good person who will be very successful in the future. Thank you very much. I welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fahmy. We have quite a few questions. Due to being tight on time, we might not be able to take all of these, but still some of these we'll take. So this question is basically focused towards Mr. Rami Kuda, and that is what kind of training we need to have to prove our analytical skills. So any thoughts about that?
There isn't a specific training, but there are on the web plenty of sites that give good data analytics. And from my memory, there is a site called I think UDEMY. So if you go there, that's a very good site to have some courses, and it helps you enhance your skills in data analytics in general.
So it's basically a lot of courses like we have on EDX and Coursera and Udemy, those kind of courses. Then again, a question for Deloitte. There are some students who are actually already started professional certifications like ACCA, and they are part qualified. So when you recruit, do you consider this kind of efforts and in your recruitment?
Yeah, of course. We will now, as I said, a certificate, professional certificate is a must for you to grow and build your career in a professional firm like Deloitte and others in the same field. So students who already started before even they join, it's a plus, because ideally someone who's on the right track should have his certificate ready, and he should be certified within the first 2 to 3 years maximum from employment. Beyond that, it becomes more difficult because he gets more responsibilities and it's difficult to continue studying. So if he's half qualified already, that's a push for him in his employment or in his interviews and so on.
Absolutely. Now, another question for you, Mr. Rami. Looks like most of the questions are directed towards you. Is Deloitte offering internships at the current time, at the moment?
Okay. Now, yeah, for internships, usually we, to be honest with you, from April or end of March, we put them on hold because of the pandemic and the situation. So it is something which we would like to resume as soon as the situation from a health point of view is better, because keep in mind, many of our employees are working remotely now. So it's difficult to have someone who joins for an internship and he cannot be with the team to go to the clients and so on. So it is partially on hold until the situation permits, because our health people within Deloitte are not permitting any more people coming on board for an internship in this situation. But it's something that we hope we can resume soon.
Okay, thank you. Next question is directed towards Mr. Akbar Khan, and that is, in which sector Qatar is focusing its investments at the moment? In which sector of economy?
In which sectors of the economy? Well, there's the biggest investments are obviously always going to be in the oil and gas sector, and you just heard about the massive investments that are happening in the expansion to LNG capacity, and that's going to make Qatar's dominance even greater. There's obviously going to be a lot of sub-suppliers that will be benefiting from this, both in Qatar and around the world. The QPs already started signing contracts, obviously ships in Korea, other companies in the US, some companies in Europe, capacity. There's a number of local companies that will benefit. So oil and gas is obviously a big one. And other areas which are continuing to get investment will, it's the usual areas. It's hospitality for the World Cup. It's real estate is, while there is an excess, there is still some investments going into there as well. But there's also a lot of money going into fintech and into technology and into to try and figure out what is Qatar's vision for the future, and in terms of, are we just going to remain a big gas exporting giant, or will there be some material diversification away? I say material because, and this applies for all the countries in the region, however much, with the exception of Dubai, however much they spend money on diversification, i.e. doing things which are not oil and gas, oil and gas is so large that everything else is just a tiny little, it doesn't even really move the needle. So I guess these are while those investments will continue, what is the bigger question is, where is Qatar heading? And given the expansion in the gas capacity, I think there is no doubt that Qatar is doubling down on its gas credentials and its gas dominance. And in the future, in a world which is more focused on climate change, on carbon emissions, where coal and oil are not considered to be very good solutions, of the hydro, I mean, obviously using solar and hydro and wind is the best option. But if you're going to use a fossil fuel, then gas is the lowest carbon emission, and so Qatar is obviously the best way to do that. So I think that's clear that the bet has been made.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Khan. We are currently living in a world which is full of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, and facing a lot of challenges for the future. So we have to harness our students with a lot of skills which they can basically meet these kind of challenges. Unfortunately, we have to cut short on our questions, even though there are a few more questions. But I would like to thank you, all of our guest speakers, distinguished speakers, Mr. Rami Khuda, Mr. Akbar Khan, and Mr. Fahmy, and all the participants as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for your participation and your thoughts. We really appreciate it, and we are thankful. Thank you. Have a very good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.